A magnetic woman doesn't become magnetic by accident. She doesn't stumble into her power, nor does she rely on luck, beauty, or charm alone. What sets her apart is her inner world, a reality she has deliberately and repeatedly sculpted. At the core of her magnetism lies something far more powerful than appearance or status: alignment. This alignment isn't about perfection, it's about coherence, mental, emotional, and energetic coherence. Her thoughts are not at war with her feelings. Her desires are not blocked by her self-doubt. Her energy doesn't beg or chase for grasp, it rests, it trusts, it commands. And this coherence sends a clear, uninterrupted signal into the quantum field, into the very fabric of reality, calling to her what aligns with her frequency. You see, the reason most people don't attract what they desire because they are fragmented. They think one thing, feel another, and act from yet another place. They say they want love but feel unworthy. They speak of abundance but feel lack. They visualize success but live in stress. This incoherence scrambles the signal they send out, and the universe mirrors back the confusions. The queen, however, understands that to be magnetic is to be whole. She aligns her internal environment with her visions of herself she intends to become. She thinks like her, she feels like her, she walks, speaks, and breathes as if that version of her already exists, because in a very real way it does. She doesn't wait for the external to shift before she aligns the internal. She knows that cause doesn't follow effect. In a quantum model of reality, she must become the cause. That means she wakes up each morning and chooses her energy. She decides who she wants to be. She doesn't live by default, reacting to the chaos of the world. She lives by design, responding from the center that is stable, intentional, and grounded. When a woman begins to live this way intentionally, consciously, something extraordinary happens. Her presence changes. She becomes luminous. You can feel her energy before she speaks a word. People notice her without knowing why. They lean in, not because she demands attention, but because she no longer needs it. The lack of need is magnetic. The inner fullness radiates outwards like gravitational force. And that force is not manufactured, it's not a mass or a persona. It's a natural byproduct of inner harmony. The queen is no longer trying to be someone she already is. She doesn't chase opportunities, she draws them in. She doesn't beg for love, she becomes the embodiment of love. She doesn't hustle to prove her worth. She walks in the unshakable knowing that she already is worthy. But alignment doesn't happen once and stay forever. It is a daily practice. The magnetic woman sits in stillness, not just to calm her mind, but to tune it. She meditates not to escape the world, but to become the master of it. She rehearses elevated emotions like gratitude, joy, and love, not because life has already given her everything, but because she knows those feelings are the currencies of attraction. She chooses to feel it now so she can experience it later. She studies her thoughts not to judge them, but to redirect them. She becomes deeply aware the moment her mind drifts into fear, scarcity, or doubt. And in that awareness, she takes her power back. Because the moment you become aware, you are no longer the program, you are the programmer. The queen knows this. She doesn't allow the past to hypnotize her. She walks up from the old story and rewrites them in the real time. Here's the secret. Alignment feels like freedom. It feels like peace. It feels like knowing that everything you desire is not outside of you, but within you, waiting to be activated. The queen doesn't become magnetic by doing more. She becomes magnetic by becoming more of who she truly is, beneath the noise, beneath the conditioning, beneath the fear. She strips away everything that doesn't resonate with her future self, and what's left is radiant, powerful, undeniable. In a world that's constantly pulling you into distraction, comparison, and noise, the aligned woman is rare and powerful force. She doesn't shout to be seen. She doesn't compete to be chosen. She doesn't shriek to be liked. Her very being speaks louder than words. Her vibration preceded her. Her alignment is her announcement. One of the most profound transformations a woman can experience on her journey to becoming magnetic is the process of breaking her addiction to external validation. It's not an easy shift. It requires undoing years, often decades of programming that taught her to seek approval, affection, and identity outside of herself. This validation used to feel like oxygen. A compliment could lift her for a moment. A like, a glance of message, it lifted her briefly. But like an addiction, it left her emptier each time it faded. It made her dependent. It made her forget who she was before the world told her who to be. The magnetic woman no longer feeds off attention. She knows that external validation is the counterfeit currency. It looks shiny, feels good, but doesn't last. It leaves you chasing, hustling, and ultimately performing. It keeps you in the loop of needing to be proved, to please, and to be chosen. But the queen, she doesn't perform. She doesn't beg to be noticed. She doesn't answer herself to be accepted. She breaks that cycle because she understands a fundamental truth. Anything you seek outside yourself becomes your master. So she turns inwards, not in isolation, but in liberation. She begins to observe herself, the places where she once gave her power away. She noticed how her mood used to depend on someone else's opinion, how she would dress, speak, and behave to gain approval from people who never truly saw her, how she dulled her light to be more palatable, how she saw love before learning to love herself. And in that honest observation, she begins to unhook. She begins to release the need to be anything other than authentic. It doesn't mean she becomes cold or indifferent. On the contrary, she becomes more deeply connected to herself. She begins to cultivate a relationship with her own soul. She speaks to herself with kindness. She listens to her intuition. She honors her boundaries. She learns to sit with herself in silence without needing to reach for distraction or validation. And that self-relationship becomes the foundation of her power. Neuroscience tells us the brain becomes addicted to certain patterns, not just emotionally, but chemically. Praise, text, affirmation, these trigger dopamine. When they're gone, the mind caves them again. But the queen no longer allows her biology to run her destiny. She teaches her body to feel whole without needing to be seen. She no longer chases the external to feel internal worth. She builds that worth herself, brick by brick, thought by thought, emotion by elevated emotion. When she meditates, she is not just closing her eyes, she is reprogramming her nervous system. She is disconnecting from the identity built on needing to be liked and reconnecting with the truth of who she is. She rehearses new beliefs not because they are affirmation on a screen, but because she understands repetition wires the brain. She visualizes herself walking through life without asking permission to be powerful. She imagines herself choosing peace over pleasing people. She feels that its life no longer depends on applause, feel alive. This inner work begins to show on the outside. She becomes less reactive, less anxious. Her energy stabilizes. She no longer rushes to respond to every opinion. She no longer fears rejection because she no longer ties her worth to someone else's recognition. She becomes discerning with her energy. Not everyone gets access. Not every comment penetrates. She has boundaries, not walls. Standards, not ego. And that shift is palpable. Something else happens when we stop looking outwards for validation. She starts attracting people and situations that reflect her internal state. The healthier she becomes inside, the healthier her relationships become outside. The more she honors her own voice, the more alive opportunity finds her. Because she no longer vibrates from need, she vibrates from fulfillment. The shift in frequency is what makes her magnetic. She no longer waits to be chosen. She chooses herself. She no longer searches for size. She is enough. She embodies enoughness. She doesn't need to be told she's beautiful to feel beautiful. She doesn't need to be liked to like herself. Her energy no longer says, please approve of me. It says, I know who I am. And that knowing becomes the quiet confidence that moves mountains without raising her voice. As she continues to shed her addiction to external validation, she becomes lighter, freer, more powerful. She reclaims parts of herself once fragmented by others' opinions. She stopped asking the world, am I good enough yet? And instead asks herself, what would I feel like to live as if I already am? The question becomes her compass. The internal shift becomes her revolution. The transformation from ordinary to magnetic begins with one radical decision. To no longer live from the memory of the past, but from the visions of the future. For most people, life is simply a repetition of yesterday. They wake up, feel the same emotions, think the same thoughts, make the same choices, experience the same outcomes. The personality is stuck and reality reflects it. But the woman who becomes a queen knows she must break this loop. She must choose to live not from who she has been, but from who she is becoming. When she wakes up, she does not immediately return to old burdens of the past pain. She knows the brain is the record of the past, wired by previous experiences, conditioned by old beliefs. If she continues to operate from that record, she will only recreate more of what she already knows. So instead, she disrupts the pattern. She uses her imagination not to revive trauma, but to create destiny. She mentally rehearses her new self, a woman who is free, powerful, radiant, and whole. She sees her, she feels her, and most importantly, she believes in her before there is any physical evidence she exists. This is not about pretending or denying pain. She has faced her past. She has sat in the dark, cried the tears, acknowledged the heartbreak. But she no longer lets those moments define her. She no longer lets the past write the story of who she is. The wounds may be real, but they are not her identity. Her identity is conscious creation built moment by moment, decision by decision, aligned with the vision she holds in her mind and heart. Living from the future means she becomes emotionally familiar with the unknown. That's the key. Most people live in emotional survival, replaying rejection, betrayal, failure. These emotional addictions keep them chained to the past. The magnetic woman recognizes that in order to step into a new reality, she must practice feeling emotions she has not yet earned with her five senses. She must feel gratitude for a life not yet manifested. She must feel love before the relationship arrives. She must feel success before it shows up in her bank account. She must trust the unseen more than the seen. This isn't fantasy. It's a neurological and energetic strategy. When her feels as if her future is already real, her body begins to believe it. Her brain starts firing in the new patterns. Her heart begins to be in coherence. Her energy feels shift, and that shift is what draws the future to her. It's not about forcing outcomes to controlling timelines. It's about embodying the version of herself that already lives in the timeline she desires. She starts to notice when her old self shows up, the self that hesitates, that doubts, that remembers pains and braces for more. And in those moments, she chooses differently. She interrupts the loop. She speaks to herself as the woman she is becoming, not the girl who was hurt. She forgives herself. She breathes through the resistance. She returns to the reason. Because she understands that every time she responds to her future self, she strengthens that neural pathway, reinforces that identity, and makes it more real. She walks into rooms differently. She speaks from a grounded place. She no longer seeks to be understood. She understands herself. She no longer waits for someone to give her permission to shine. She gives it to herself. She lives in alignment with a higher version of herself, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. Because the cost of living from the past is too high. It keeps her small, reactive, and powerless. And she was not born to play small. In her daily rituals, she connects with the future. In meditation, she steps into her new identity. She asks herself, how would she think? How would she feel? How would she move through the world? And she becomes her, not someday, not when circumstances are perfect, but now, in this moment, repeatedly, relentlessly, because she knows reality bends to identity. The world does not respond to who you were, it responds to who you are being. Every time she thinks beyond the past, she burns away the old self. Every time she feels love without needing a reason, she reconditions her body to a new mind. Every time she acts as if her dream is already unfolding, she becomes magnetic to it. The gap between who she was and who she is becoming narrows until one day there's no gap at all. There's only embodiment. There's only the woman who no longer lives from wounds but from wisdom. There's only the queen. The magnetic woman understands something most overlooked. Energy speaks before words even do. Long before her enters the room or opens her mouth, her frequency has already arrived. People respond to her not because her appearance, title, or resume, but because of the way she makes them feel without effort. Her presence whispers a silent message. Confidence without arrogance, power without force, grace without submission. She doesn't demand attention. She commands it energetically. In the world obsessed with saying the right thing, doing the right thing, and appearing a certain way, the magnetic woman speaks a more ancient and powerful language, vibration. She knows that every emotion she feels carries a frequency, and that frequency is that the world responds to. If she feels needy, insecure, desperate, or bitter, she will draw in experiences that people that mirror those states. If she feels whole, radiant, peaceful, and certain, she becomes a beacon of people and opportunities that vibrate at that same level. The woman who has mastered this doesn't try to control her environment through words or manipulation. She doesn't push to be heard or force outcome. She doesn't chase relationships, careers, or attention. Instead, she focuses on her internal environment. She becomes deeply intentional about the energy she emits because she knows life is always giving her feedback. The people she attracts, the situations she finds herself in, the challenges that arise, they are mirrors reflecting her state of being. When she's misaligned, she doesn't look outward to assess lamp. She looks inward to recalibrate. She asks herself, where is she believing? Where is she feeling? What kind of signal is she sending into the field? Because she knows everything is energy, including her thoughts, emotions, and expectations. So rather than trying to control the words, she tunes herself. She becomes the frequency she wants to experience. She replaces striving with embodiment. If she wants to be loved, she vibrates love. If she wants to success, she steps into the frequency of success. She doesn't just visualize what she wants, she feels it in her body until it becomes her dominant stage. And from that stage, she moves through the world, not chasing, not needing, but attracting. It's not passive, it's profoundly active. It takes discipline to monitor your inner stage, awareness to notice when your energy drops and bring yourself back to center. Courage to stop reacting and start responding from the woman you intend to be. That discipline becomes her superpower. She trains her nervous system to live in elevated emotions, not occasionally, but consistently. She understands energy is not abstract concept. It is a living, breathing force. It's the unspoken conversations she's having with the world. When she walks in the room, people feel her. When she speaks, they wait behind her words, not because she's louder or more persuasive, but because her energy is clear and congruent. She is not fragmented. She is not pretending, she is not performing. She is a light. This alignment creates resonance. People are naturally drawn to her because her energy makes them feel safe, inspired, or simply more alive. They may not know why they are born toward to her, but they are, because energy doesn't lie. Energy doesn't need to convince or persuade. Energy either attracts or it doesn't. And when it's authentic and elevated, it becomes magnetic. She also knows attraction is not only about bringing things in, it's about being in flow with life. She releases the need to control every outcome because she trusts her frequency to do the work. She trusts the timing, the unfolding, the process. She doesn't live in scarcity, afraid she's missed her chance. She lives in abundance, knowing what's meant to be cannot miss her. When she becomes the version of herself who is ready to receive it. Her work is invisible to most. They don't see the morning rituals, the meditation, the journaling, the inner work. They don't see her choosing faith over fear in quiet moments. They don't hear her inner dialogue being rewritten in real time. They just feel the result. They feel the power of the woman who no longer negotiates with her doubt. A woman who doesn't lower her standards to meet someone else's comfort. A woman who doesn't ask permission to be radiant. She's become fluent in the language of energy. She no longer chases because she no longer lacks. She no longer convinces because she no longer doubts. She no longer performs because she no longer needs to be chosen. Her energy has become her declaration. Her alignment has become her magnetism. Her frequency is her invitation. The final shift into becoming a truly magnetic woman is the intellectual. It's cellular. It's not about repeating affirmations or understanding self-worth as a concept. It is about embodying worthiness so deeply that every cell in her body vibrates with the truth that she is enough. Not because of what she has achieved, who she is with, or how others perceive her, but simply because she exists. This level of worthiness cannot be faked, but must be felt. It must be lived. For most of her life, the woman who is now becoming magnetic may have tried to earn her worthiness. She worked hard, over-delivered, strengthened herself to be liked, or exaggerated herself to be seen. She stayed in relationships or environments that dishonor her because she believed that was all she deserved. She wore masks. She became what others needed. She collected achievements and validations like armor, protecting a fragile self-conceptual lies underneath. But worthiness is not something you can collect. It is something you claim. And claiming requires radical confrontation with every belief that told her otherwise. The magnetic woman sits with herself and goes deeper than surface-level thoughts. She listens for whispers in her nervous system, echoes of childhood wounds, memories of being overlooked, internalized voices that say she was too much or not enough. She does not ask this pain, submits it. Because to fully embody worthiness, she must free a part of herself that still feels unworthy. It is a healing journey, but also a rewiring. Brain and body are not separate. Every thought she has produced by our chemical response. Over time, emotions she repeatedly feels, shame, guilt, lack, fear, become stored in the body. They become familiar. The body gets addicted to these states even when they no longer serve her. So to change, she must create a new emotional baseline. She must teach her body what it feels like to exist with worthiness, not occasionally, but as default. It begins in stillness. In meditation, she doesn't try to escape life. She enters a state, assessing the subconscious to recondition it. She breathes into her heart, connects with her present moment, because that's where true change happens. She brings up the elevated emotion matching her worth, gratitude, love, empowerment, joy, and lets them flood her system. He lets them become her internal chemistry. She holds them enough for her body to begin to recognize them as normal. Over time, this becomes who she is. She stops over-explaining. No need to prove. She no longer overcompensates. She no longer accepts crumbs because she knows she is the banquet. Her standards are not based on arrogance but on embodiments. She doesn't hope she's worthy. She was as if she is. And because energy doesn't lie, Earth begins reflecting that truth back to her. There's softness in her that's no longer trying so hard. Strength from no longer needing to defend or justify her value. She stopped trying to earn love because she realized she is love. She becomes deeply rooted in her own being. Her worth is no longer tied to productivity, performance, or perfection. It's not in how much she does for others. It's on how deeply she honors herself. This internal shift changes everything. She begins attracting relationships where she's seen, not for what she gives, but for who she is. She walks away from anything not aligning with her frequency. She sets boundaries without guilt because she understands that it knows it's not rejection, but self-respect. She stops comparing herself to others because her worth is no longer negotiable. She sees another woman shine and celebrates her because someone else's power no longer threatens her own. The magnetic woman doesn't just believe in her worth. She feels it, radiates it, lives it, and that feeling communicates louder than anything else she could say. It shapes how she moves, how she breathes, how she occupies space. Her presence says, I know who I am. And that knowing is magnetic. The world doesn't respond to what she wants. It responds to who she is being. When she's being a woman who knows she is enough, the world has no choice but to respond in kind. She becomes a mirror to others to remember their own worth. She becomes a frequency that uplifts, expands, and draws in only what reflects her truth. The journey from woman to queen is not defined by our achievements or external validations. It is an internal revelation. A magnetic woman is not born, she is built through intentional self-awareness, emotional mastery, and radical self-worth. She doesn't react to life, she creates it. She doesn't chase love, success, or recognition. She aligns with them because she understands deeper laws in the universe. Energy precedes matter. Identity shapes destiny. Our worthiness is not something to be earned, but something to be embodied. She has trained her nervous system to trust the unseen, feel elevated emotions in advance, speak the language of vibration. Her power is not in how loudly she commands, but in how quiet she radiates. Her strength is not in controlling, but in allowing. Her magnetism is not strategy, it's stage. She has let go of the woman who lived from fear, stepped into herself to lead with vision. And in doing so, she doesn't just attract a new life, she becomes a new life. This is the art of becoming magnetic, not by force, but by frequency, not by pretending, but by presence, not someday, but now. The queen doesn't wait to be chosen, she chooses herself. And in that choice, she unlocks the most powerful truth of all. She was always the one.